where are you from? And they usually say, somewhere other than Switzerland. Oh, I'm from Canada. Oh, I'm from the United States. Oh, I'm from Italy. Oh, what brought you to Switzerland? Oh, I have a Swiss wife. Well, I'm going to tell you, I've been married for 37 years, and I'm Canadian, and if there's any interest in me coming to Switzerland, we might have to tweak this pitch a little bit. But honestly, it's a pleasure. I'm certainly going to talk about Polyml, which in addition to our 4 children is truly at this point in my life my purpose and my passion. But I want to tell you a little bit of context about how I landed here. So just a little over, around 3 years ago right now, I gave my first public talk about AI governance. I opened with a question that you'd probably never asked. I asked the audience, how many of you think that you've come into contact with AI today? Maybe 30% of them put up their hands. That wouldn't be true today because something happened on November the 30th, 2022. Does anybody know what happened on November the 30th, 2022? I call it BC, before ChatGPT. So it might surprise you to know that people were working on AI, in particular machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence, but also people were leaning in quite heavily to the governance and the risk aspects of AI, even before ChatGPT. But my goodness, the world changed completely. The world changed because the risk quotient, or the vector of risk associated with large language models, is different to machine learning. And so whereas up until that point, places like Singapore and the EU who were the leaders, and in many respects still are the leaders, at thinking through how to manage this risk, we're focused on near-term risks like bias and the potential for discrimination based on historical data, or transparency, disclosure, much in the same way the sustainability movement has been for years, or the explainability of algorithms. And with the introduction of large language models and some digestion of what they could do, or as importantly, what the millions of people around the world could do with them, there converged a concern around medium-term risk and long-term risk. Medium-term risk being, at the time, things like the perception of possible job losses or manipulation of the media. I would argue those are with us today. And then longer-term concerns like the existential risk, the threat that AI can learn, can become more likely to be sentient, could even surpass human intelligence and actually act against us. And so, of course, what happened to me unsuspectingly back in 2021 as I was building a little practice of AI governance is it flourished. And I spoke to boards, and I went to work with an AI governance company. And this is how I crossed paths with Professor Gonnet. We actually were each presenting for separate organizations to a federal government client. And Gaston and I spoke, and today I have the privilege of working with Polyml. I actually noticed, thinking back about what the world was concerned about 5 years ago, that amongst all the different risk types that were of prevalent concern, there was one that I saw as a leader among equals, and that is the explainability of AI. So yes, of course we're concerned with bias and discrimination and disclosure and whether it contravenes laws and privacy and robustness of the technology and whether cybersecurity breaches are more likely with AI in place or not. But if you don't have explainability, this is a technical concept. It's different than transparency. Transparency is whether the organization discloses how they're using AI and is honest and thinking through how to do it effectively. Explainability is, do we understand how models that are created by machines with human input, but they're artificial based on machine intelligence, do we understand how they translate inputs into outputs? Now, in a non-high risk kind of case, like making a prediction of what you'd like to watch on Netflix tonight, it doesn't matter so much. But if that AI is making an influential judgment on whether you should get a mortgage, if you go to the bank and you get declined today, you know who to complain to. If an AI has influenced or even made that decision, who's responsible for that decision? So just as a starting point, the explainability of AI, to me, always seemed foundational to understanding if we could trust it and how to regulate it and what the risk vector was. And the interesting thing with Polyml is we have developed a novel proprietary way of developing fully interpretable, fully explainable models with structured data. We think it's quite groundbreaking. But it isn't just the trust aspect, and it isn't just the ability to meet regulatory compliance requirements because we can see how our models translate inputs into outputs. I don't think that's what's going to make our company big, powerful, and prosperous. It's the particular way we go about analyzing data which enables us to develop interpretable models. We can look inside a vast night sky of stars, the data points, and identify the number one, number two, number three feature that are most important in relation to whatever particular outcome you're interested in. And so while we have explainability for trust, we have the power of root cause analysis. That's diagnosis, and that lets you treat something. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you receive a report from your doctor saying that a hot new AI has predicted that there's a 98% chance you're going to have a heart attack in the next 6 months, but I'm sorry, it can't tell you why. That's possible. That kind of thing is going on, maybe not in healthcare, maybe, but it is. It's being used to predict recidivism rates in the US. How would you like to be, charged with a crime and your sentence is influenced by a black box model that we don't know how it came up with its output, but it predicts you're going to offend again, so you get a bigger sentence. The power of our technology is its explainability, but also its ability to say, here's how you go to solve your problem. We can tell you, yes, there's a 98% chance you're going to have a heart attack, but we can tell you not just accurately that you're going to have a heart attack, but the why, that gives somebody the ability to go and act on it. Our product is called FINS, for Feature Importance Insights, and it's both a blessing and a curse that this technology is applicable across many, many different horizontals. So today, we've deployed it in manufacturing, specifically in auto parts manufacturing. It's not super sexy, but we've got sensors running on robotic welding and machine press stamping, and we analyze data to do with pressure, resistance, and current, and we've been able to drive 20% production efficiencies on a robotic welding line, while also improving the quality of the weld, reducing splatter, and therefore better quality parts, and less likelihood of contractual breaches with the OEMs. So it's an efficiency. Where I personally think that our biggest buck is going to come is in what we call desktop applications or inherently digital applications, where it's not a physical environment, like a manufacturing plant. In financial, think about what we have as like the Hubble telescope. And there's a night sky up there of data points. In robotic welding, we started with 1.2 million data points. Imagine being able to say which one of those is the number one that most likely predicts a problem that if you adjust it, you can get rid of or at least massively reduce the problem. Now imagine you can do this with transactional data and more effectively identify this is fraud or this isn't fraud. Even tiny little improvements for financial institutions in a very, very expensive problem like fraud or anti-money laundering will pay enormous dividends. Imagine in rare disease research where you have a massive genomic expression of 60,000 variables, data points, and you have only 400 people on Earth. There is no approach to conventional data analytics with structured data that we know of that can go into data and say, out of that many variables, this is the one. And there are technical reasons that tonight isn't the night to explain why that's true, but that's what makes us such a game changer. So we're very, very excited about our data. We're a small company. We're deployed in one sector. We see the opportunity to scale this into many, many, many different sectors, one at a time. And I suppose I came to this company very, very honestly by virtue of my interest in AI governance, and sat and learned about the technology and how it could be brought to bear to solve problems. I think it's almost a win-win-win in that it's going to drive efficiency, so it's a good numbers story, but it's also going to enable risk and compliance. Regulators are going to love something where high-risk models, high-impact models can be understood. I can talk all day long. I don't want to stand between you guys and your wine, but I'm very excited. I'm very hopeful that AI and machine intelligence will be brought to bear in positive ways, and I'm very proud to be a part of a company that is truly going to be one of the very, very good, trustworthy guys in AI. Thank you.